What if humans had never left Africa? The first boundary is not a wall. It is a strip of water shining beneath a pale morning sky. 70,000 years ago, the southern end of the Red Sea is narrower than it will be in the future. Sea level is lower because so much of Earth's water is held in ice. Islands break the crossing into shorter distances. On the African shore, a young woman stands with wet sand around her ankles and studies land that seems close enough to touch. We will call her Sira. No name spoken in that time could have reached us unchanged, and no single person decided whether our species would populate the planet. Sira is one life placed inside a much larger movement. Behind her, 26 people wait beside bundles of hide, stone, shell, dried meat, and water held in animal skins. Two narrow rafts rest above the tide line. Their frames are made from branches tied with fiber. Bundles of reeds provide buoyancy. The vessels are not elegant, but neither are they foolish. Human beings have been crossing rivers, following coasts, and understanding water long before anyone left a written record. Across the strait lies Arabia. Sira cannot know that name. She knows only that birds sometimes arrive from that direction. She knows floating branches wash onto this shore with seeds trapped in their bark. She knows the far land turns green during certain seasons. An older hunter claims he once saw smoke there. Another says the smoke was cloud shadow. The argument has lasted longer than the rafts took to build. Sira's younger brother, Omi, wants to leave before the wind changes. He is 19, impatient, and certain that fear becomes smaller when a person walks toward it. Their mother wants to wait for another tide. A woman named Ida, who understands currents better than anyone in the group, says waiting will make the crossing worse. Nobody calls this an exodus. They are not leaving a continent. The idea of a continent does not exist for them. They are moving toward food, water, and a landscape glimpsed from another shore. Their ancestors have done the same within Africa for thousands of generations. The first raft enters the water. Sira climbs aboard with Omi, Ida, 3 children, and 7 adults. The second raft follows. People remaining on shore hold ropes until the current catches both vessels. Then they release them. For a while, the crossing seems almost easy. The rafts rise and fall. Paddles correct their direction. The African shore begins to flatten behind them. The islands ahead become distinct. Sira sees dark rock, low shrubs, and birds lifting from a beach. Omi laughs. It is the sound of someone discovering that a forbidden distance can become ordinary. Then the wind turns. It comes from the north, stronger than Ida expected. The first raft drifts south. The second falls behind. A bundle of reeds loosens beneath Sira's feet. Water pushes through the frame. One child begins crying. The adults paddle harder, but harder is not the same as better. The current takes energy without accepting intention. The second raft rotates. For several moments, Sira sees the people aboard it broadside to the waves. Then a swell rises between them. When the raft appears again, 2 people are in the water. Ida shouts for the first raft to turn. Omi points toward the island. It is closer than Africa now. If they continue, they may reach it. If they turn, the damaged raft may not survive the longer return. The people in the water are behind them. Nobody has time for agreement. Sira remembers what her father once told her about hunting near cliffs. A choice can be correct and still kill someone. They turn. The first raft reaches the second after a struggle that lasts less than an hour and feels longer than a season. One swimmer is pulled aboard. The other is gone. The damaged raft cannot carry everyone. They tie the vessels together, throw tools and food into the sea, and let the wind push them south until the African coast becomes reachable again. They land far from where they began. 3 people are missing. One child is unconscious from cold and wakes after sunset. Most of the water skins are empty. Omi's certainty is gone. Sira sits beside him while waves destroy one of the rafts on the rocks. In our history, this would not be the last attempt. That is the first scientific difficulty in tonight's question. Homo sapiens did not leave Africa in one clean movement made by one group at one moment. Fossils, archaeology, and genetics describe repeated expansions, retreats, contacts, and failures. Modern humans reached parts of Southwest Asia long before the population expansion that contributed most of the ancestry of people living outside Africa today. Arabian landscapes opened and closed as climate changed. Deserts became grasslands around lakes, then returned to aridity. Groups moved through the Levant, across northeastern Africa, and along southern routes at different times. To create a world in which our species never leaves Africa, one failed raft is not enough. Every corridor must close. Every small population beyond the boundary must disappear, return, or be absorbed without establishing a lasting expansion. Green periods in Arabia must end too quickly. Northern routes must become dry or cold at the wrong moments. Coastal groups must lose water, food, or numbers before reaching the next refuge. Encounters with Neanderthals or other resident human lineages may add competition, danger, or exchange, but no enduring Homo sapiens population survives outside the continent. This is possible for a time. Small populations vanish easily. A few poor seasons, an epidemic, a conflict, or the loss of several knowledgeable adults can erase a migration completely. It is harder to make the condition last. Africa is connected to Eurasia. The Red Sea can be crossed. The Sinai Peninsula can become habitable. Human curiosity repeats. Boats improve. A permanent never requires more than geography. It requires a long chain of accidents, ecological barriers, demographic failures, and eventually cultural choices that make the boundary meaningful. Tonight, we will follow that unlikely chain. Sira's group does not decide that nobody should ever cross the water. They decide only that they will not try again before the child who nearly died can walk without shaking. They move inland toward seasonal springs. The lost raft becomes a story. The story changes with every telling. At first, it is practical. The north wind strengthens after a particular cloud appears. Reed bundles must be tied twice. Water must be carried in smaller containers so one leak does not destroy the whole supply. A person in the sea should release heavy tools. Later, the story becomes moral. The far shore takes those who approach without listening. The water punishes people who value new land more than the lives beside them. Omi becomes the brother who wanted too much. Sira becomes the sister who turned back. That is not fair to either of them. Stories preserve survival more reliably than fairness. Sira's people continue moving through northeastern Africa. They meet other groups beside rivers and stone sources. They exchange shells, pigments, partners, songs, and warnings. Some have their own stories about the far shore. One family describes relatives who crossed northward during a wet generation and never returned. Another has a stone point made from material believed to come from beyond the water. The boundary is not unknown. It is uncertain. Sira grows older. Her group changes language slowly enough that she does not notice. Omi has children. One of them asks whether people live across the sea. Perhaps, he says. People like us. Omi looks towards Sira before answering. People who belong to themselves. It is not an anthropological classification. It is the best answer he has. Beyond Africa, other human lineages already exist. Neanderthals occupy parts of Europe and Western Asia. Denisovan-related populations live somewhere across Asia, known to our real history mostly through small remains and genetic traces. Other descendants of earlier migrations may survive in regions the fossil record barely reveals. Homo sapiens is not the first human lineage to leave Africa. Members of the genus Homo had expanded into Eurasia far earlier. If our species remains inside Africa, the rest of the planet is not empty of intelligence. What happens to those other humans is uncertain. Neanderthals faced small population sizes, climatic instability, and long-term demographic pressures even before sustained contact with Homo sapiens. Our arrival was probably not one simple cause of their disappearance. Without us, they might survive longer. Some populations might expand during favorable climates and contract during severe ones. Denisovan-related groups might persist in parts of Asia. Other lineages could survive in ecological refuges, or they might still disappear. The fossil record does not promise them a modern future merely because Homo sapiens stays away. A lineage can vanish without being conquered. Climate, inbreeding, low fertility, disease, competition with other animals, and chance can be enough. Tonight's alternate world therefore has more than one possible Eurasia. In one, other humans remain beyond Africa for tens of thousands of years. In another, their final populations fade, leaving the rest of Earth without any human presence at all. Sira never learns which world exists across the water. She dies in her late 40s, old enough to have seen children become parents and migration routes change. Before her death, she gives Ida's surviving paddle to a girl who is not related to her. The wood has cracked. It is no longer useful on water. The girl uses it to press seeds into soft ground near a seasonal stream. An object changes purpose before anyone names the change. Generations pass. The human population remains entirely African, but it does not remain in one place. People move through savannas, forests, highlands, coasts, deserts, river valleys, and lake systems. They cross ecological boundaries as demanding as many borders between continents. Africa is not one climate or one human experience. It is vast enough to contain Mediterranean woodland, alpine cold, equatorial forest, immense grassland, dry desert, volcanic highland, inland delta, and 2 ocean coasts. Remaining in Africa does not mean remaining still. It means that every migration turns inward, southward, westward, eastward, or northward without becoming a permanent expansion beyond the continent. During wet phases, the Sahara is crossed by rivers, lakes, grasslands, fish, crocodiles, antelope, and people. During dry phases, populations retreat toward coasts, highlands, the Nile, the Sahel, and other refuges. The continent repeatedly connects and separates its human communities. Languages diverge. Tool traditions spread and vanish. Bodies adapt to altitude, heat, humidity, diet, and disease. Human diversity does not become small. Africa already contains the deepest branches of living human genetic diversity in our real world. Modern research increasingly rejects the image of Homo sapiens emerging from one tiny birthplace and then spreading as a finished species. Our origins appear to involve populations structured across Africa, separating, reconnecting, and exchanging genes over long periods. In tonight's world, that network continues without the severe founder event that accompanied the major expansion beyond Africa. There is no single non-African branch carrying only part of African diversity into the rest of the planet. There are no later populations called European, East Asian, Indigenous American, Oceanian, or any other identity built from settlement outside Africa. Those histories never begin. This does not create one uniform African humanity. It creates more time for differences within Africa to deepen, mix, and reorganize. Some populations live for thousands of years in highlands where oxygen is thin. Others adapt to humid forests, dry grasslands, or regions with intense malaria pressure. Skin pigmentation varies with ultraviolet radiation, diet, and inherited history, though the range differs from our global one. Body proportions respond to heat and altitude. Immune systems follow local pathogens. Lactase persistence may still evolve where pastoralism makes milk important. Sickle cell variants and other defenses against malaria remain regionally significant. Countless adaptations arise that cannot be predicted from one changed migration alone. The word race would not carry the same history it carries in our world. Humans can invent hierarchies from language, ancestry, occupation, religion, location, wealth, or almost any visible distinction. Keeping everyone on one continent does not remove prejudice. It removes the particular global geography later used to construct modern racial categories through colonization, slavery, empire, and pseudoscience. Other categories could become equally powerful and equally cruel. A highland kingdom might describe river populations as physically and morally different. Coastal traders might treat inland pastoralists as uncivilized. People from one disease region might fear outsiders as carriers of death. Language families, skin tone, scar patterns, clothing, and ritual could become boundaries. Human beings do not need oceans to divide one another. They also do not need oceans to connect. Stone from one region travels hundreds and then thousands of kilometers through exchange. Shells move inland. Pigments cross ecological zones. Knowledge of plants, animals, seasons, and water spreads through marriage and migration. No person sees the whole network. Yet an object can pass through 50 hands and carry information farther than a traveler. Population remains smaller than in our history for a long time, but not because Africa is empty or inherently limited. Carrying capacity changes with climate, technology, crops, health, and institutions. A continent can support very different numbers of people under different systems. Still, the absence of Eurasia, Australia, the Americas, and distant islands as human habitats removes enormous areas of settlement and independent innovation. Geographic concentration creates two opposite effects. People remain close enough for ideas to move through continental networks. At the same time, humanity loses the experiments that would have occurred in environments outside Africa. No Arctic population develops generations of knowledge about sea ice. No people adapt to the high Andes or Tibetan Plateau in the same historical way. No Pacific navigators build traditions around thousands of remote islands. No communities domesticate plants and animals unique to the Americas, East Asia, New Guinea, or Eurasia. The human story becomes more connected and less planetary. For tens of thousands of years, this difference is difficult to see. Most people in both histories live by hunting, gathering, fishing, and managing landscapes. They know local worlds with precision no global map can replace. The absence of distant continents does not feel like loss because nobody expects to live there. Then climate begins changing again. Around 12,000 years before the present, rains strengthen across northern Africa. The Sahara turns green on a scale difficult to imagine from its later desert. Lakes expand. Rivers cross regions that will one day be dry. Grasslands support cattle, gazelle, giraffe, elephant, and human communities. Fishers move through waterways far from modern coasts. Near one of those lakes lives a young woman we will call Ebony. She is not Syrah's descendant in any traceable family sense. Tens of thousands of years separate them. Their connection is geographic and human rather than genealogical. Ebony lives in a world where the failed shore crossings have become fragments inside myths nobody can date. Her community travels with the water. They build reed boats, set bow and harpoons, gather aquatic plants, hunt antelope, and manage stands of useful grasses. Cattle move near their camps, not yet fully transformed into the animals later pastoralists will know. People understand which herds tolerate human presence, which cows can be approached, and which calves may be raised after a hunt. The boundary between hunting and herding is not crossed in one generation. Ebony's mother, Nalo, keeps a set of marked stones. Each stone represents a place where water remained during a dry season. White stone means a deep spring. Red stone means a lake that becomes dangerous when crocodiles breed. Black stone means water controlled by another community. The stones fit into a woven bag. Their order creates a route. Abney thinks of the bag as a map, even though it does not resemble land from above. It is a sequence of decisions. Walk toward the morning sun for 2 days. Follow the line of dark hills. Trade salt before asking for access. Never camp where the white birds gather at dusk. The lake has been shrinking for 3 years. Older people say it always returns. Nalo is less certain. Reeds die along the eastern shore. Fish become smaller. Cattle crowd near remaining water and spread disease. Arguments begin between families who once used different parts of the lake. Abney proposes moving west before scarcity forces everyone onto the same route. The council resists. West means crossing open grassland with few reliable springs. It means entering territories known only through trade. It means abandoning fish traps, graves, and the oldest marked stones. One elder says the lake has held their ancestors for 9 generations. Abney replies that the lake does not know this. The sentence is repeated angrily for days. Then a child dies after drinking from a shallow pool filled with animal waste. 2 more become ill. Nalo opens the woven bag and removes the eastern route stones. She places them on the ground one by one. We kept the route, she says, not the water. The community divides its stores and leaves. Their journey becomes the second major movement in the story, but it does not approach Africa's edge. It crosses the enormous interior. They move through grassland toward a chain of seasonal lakes. Along the way, they meet people speaking languages only partly understood. They encounter polished stone axes, unfamiliar fishing nets, woven grain containers, and camp following canids tolerated for warning and scavenging, though no domesticated dog lineage has arrived from Eurasia. Some technologies still reach Africa from other human lineages beyond it in our real history. In this alternate world, those exchanges are greatly reduced or absent. Exactly which domesticated animals are available becomes complicated because earlier hominins had already moved between continents, and wild species do not respect future political maps. But the great later package of crops and livestock developed in Eurasia does not arrive through Homo sapiens trade. There is no domesticated wheat or barley spreading from Southwest Asia. No sheep and goats moving into African pastoral systems from the Fertile Crescent. No chickens arriving ultimately from Southeast Asia. No horse domestication on the Eurasian steppe followed by chariots, cavalry, and long-distance transport. No Arabian camel domestication creating the same desert trade routes. African societies must build agriculture from African possibilities. That is not a small list. Sorghum, pearl millet, fonio, African rice, yams, cowpeas, teff, inset, oil palm, coffee, cola, watermelons, and many other plants can be selected, managed, and domesticated in different regions. Cattle may follow African pathways of management and breeding, although the exact history remains debated even in our world. Donkeys can be domesticated in northeastern Africa. Guinea fowl and other local animals may enter closer relationships with people. Fish farming, insect cultivation, tree crops, and landscape management can become major food systems. Agriculture does not need the Fertile Crescent to exist. It develops differently because the species, soils, rainfall, and social pressures are different. Abney's community reaches a broad river after 42 days. The people living there cultivate a grass whose seeds remain attached longer than those of wild plants. Harvesters prefer those stalks because fewer grains fall before collection. Without understanding genetics, they change the plant every season by choosing which seeds return to the ground. Abney sees fields for the first time. They do not stretch to the horizon. They grow between wild stands, trees, grazing areas, and wetland. The river community is not fully settled. Families move when floods fail or pests increase. They store grain in raised baskets plastered with mud and plant fibers. Some grain is smoked above controlled fires. Pottery holds water, seed, oil, and fermented food. The people have already crossed thresholds Sierra's world could not imagine. The river community needs salt and fish. Abbeny's people need seed and permission to remain. Nalo places the marked stones before the local council and explains the route they crossed. The stones become valuable for reasons beyond water. They connect regions. Abbeny proposes an exchange. Her people will guide river traders east when the rains return. In return, the river community will send seed, pottery knowledge, and 2 families experienced with cultivation to the Western Lake system. The agreement creates no empire. It creates a repeated road. Over the next 20 years, Abbeny travels it more than 30 times. She learns 6 languages well enough to trade in fragments of many others. She carries seed west and salt east. She brings news of rainfall, disease, conflict, births, and changing animal movements. She discovers that the shrinking lake was not an isolated event. The entire wet Sahara is beginning a long transformation. The green world does not vanish overnight. Rainfall shifts over generations. Lakes retreat unevenly. Grassland becomes scrub and then desert in some places while remaining habitable elsewhere. People move toward the Sahel, Nile, coasts, highlands, and surviving water systems. Population concentration increases. So does conflict. So does exchange. The desert that later appears to divide Africa first acts as a great engine of movement. Abbeny's road becomes part of a wider network. No single ruler controls it. Communities maintain different sections because all benefit from information. Marked stones are copied into clay tablets, carved wood, knotted cords, and songs. A route becomes infrastructure before anyone builds a paved surface. On her final journey east, Abbeny is nearly 60. The lake of her childhood has contracted into separate basins. The old camp lies beneath cracked mud. She finds one of her mother's black stones near the shore. Black once meant water controlled by another community. Abbeny carries it to the river settlement and places it beside the first public grain store built there after a severe drought. The store does not belong to one family. Every household contributes during good years. Distribution is recorded by witnesses from different lineages. The system is imperfect. Powerful families still take more. Records can be altered. Guards can be bribed. Yet the idea matters. When people cannot leave the continent, resilience must be built within it. That becomes one of the deepest differences in this alternate history. Global human dispersal gave our species geographic insurance. A drought in one region did not strike every population. A volcanic eruption, epidemic, or political collapse remained regional after humans occupied distant continents. In Abbeny's world, humanity is spread across a vast and varied landmass, but every person still shares continental climate systems, disease pathways, and ecological connections. One disaster cannot easily destroy all Africa. The continent is too large and diverse for that simple statement. But concentration increases correlation. A major shift in monsoons can affect millions across connected regions. A pathogen can move through trade networks without an ocean separating populations. A volcanic winter reaches everyone, but geographically distant continents would have offered more independent food systems and refuges. Abbeny's descendants in culture, if not in direct family line, respond by valuing duplication. One seed store is no seed store. One road is no road. One language holding a medical practice is no archive. Communities copy useful knowledge across ecological regions. Drought-resistant crops move toward wet zones as insurance. Wetland foods are maintained even when grain is abundant. Herds are divided rather than concentrated. Political alliances link communities that experience different rainfall. Humanity becomes skilled at continental redundancy, because it has no planetary redundancy. This does not make the alternate world peaceful. When water contracts, people fight. Farming communities push into grazing land. Pastoralists raid stored grain. River settlements demand labor for access. Strong leaders turn emergency coordination into permanent authority. Captives are taken. Inequality becomes hereditary. Religion justifies ownership. History does not need Europe, Asia, or the Americas to produce coercion. It also does not need them to produce resistance. People flee states, form new communities, sabotage tribute systems, protect common land, and create laws limiting rulers. No continent owns virtue or violence. As the Sahara dries, urban centers grow along rivers and coasts. Different regions develop food surpluses at different times. Copper is mined and shaped. Gold becomes ornament, ritual material, and stored wealth. Iron working may arise independently, although archaeologists in our world debate the timing and pathways. In tonight's branch, high-temperature experimentation eventually produces furnaces capable of transforming ore. The discovery does not require influence from outside Africa. Fire, clay, charcoal, or airflow, and repeated failure exist on the continent. Writing emerges more than once. One system begins with marks used to track grain, cattle, and obligations along the Nile. Another develops from route symbols and public memory in the Western Lake networks. Coastal merchants create compact signs that survive salt and travel. Not every writing system becomes alphabetic. Some combine carved symbols, color, knot, and spoken interpretation. Paper-like materials emerge from bark, fiber, and pressed plants. Stone carries what rulers want to last. Civilization does not wait for migration beyond Africa. It grows from dense relationships among people, food, water, power, and memory. The map of that civilization is unlike ours. There is no Mesopotamia populated by Homo sapiens, no Indus cities, no ancient China, no Mesoamerican states, no Andean empires, no Greece or Rome. The Nile is not connected to a Mediterranean full of human ports beyond Africa. Its northern trade turns west and south rather than crossing into Eurasian societies. The Atlantic and Indian Ocean coasts face enormous water with no known human markets on the other side. Africa becomes the whole political world. People do not call it Africa. That name came through histories that do not exist here. They name regions, watersheds, language zones, sacred landscapes, kingdoms, republics, and trade federations. Some scholars eventually understand that all inhabited land belongs to one immense connected mass. They argue about whether the Northern Sea encloses the world or opens into it. The old stories of the far shore survive. Along the Red Sea, communities maintain boats for fishing and coastal trade. Every few generations, someone attempts a longer crossing. Some reach islands. Some touch Arabia and return. A few groups remain for months or years. None establishes a population that persists. The reasons change. An early colony loses freshwater when a spring fails. Another encounters a severe disease. A northern expedition enters territory used by a late, surviving archaic human population and retreats after violence. A coastal settlement disappears during a dry phase. One group returns with children born beyond the water, meaning individual humans have technically left Africa and come back. The strictest form of the question would forbid even that. The more scientifically useful rule is this: Homo sapiens never establishes a self-sustaining population beyond Africa. The boundary remains demographic, not magical. By the time large states can support stronger ships, the old pattern has become policy. Coastal rulers claim authority over crossings. Some prohibit settlement because failed expeditions waste lives and resources. Others fear unknown diseases. Priests describe the outer lands as belonging to the dead. Merchants prefer profitable routes along populated African coasts. Sailors know that a journey toward an empty shore offers no established market, repair port, or reliable food supply. Curiosity continues. Incentive does not always follow. A vessel can cross water and still fail to create migration. Centuries become millennia. The rest of the planet continues without Homo sapiens. In Europe, Neanderthal populations move through another cycle of cold and recovery. Some survive beyond the period when they disappeared in our history. Without sustained competition and admixture from expanding Homo sapiens, their final decline is slower. Small groups persist in southern refuges. They hunt, make tools, care for injured members, and pass knowledge through communities that remain thinly distributed. Their survival is not guaranteed forever. A severe climatic sequence fragments habitats. Genetic diversity falls. One regional disease passes between groups connected by seasonal movement. The last Neanderthal population may disappear 20,000 years later than in our world, or 5,000, or not at all. Tonight's history cannot know from evidence we do not possess. Across Asia, Denisovan-related populations follow equally uncertain paths. Some may continue in mountain, forest, or island refuges. They have their own histories, migrations, and extinctions. Homo sapiens never encounters them in the sustained way that produced genetic inheritance in our world. The alternate African population carries no Neanderthal or Denisovan ancestry acquired outside the continent. That absence changes small parts of human biology. In real history, admixture with archaic humans contributed variants affecting immunity, skin, metabolism, altitude adaptation, and other traits. Some were useful in new environments. Others became harmful under later conditions. Without those encounters, African Homo sapiens must adapt only through variation already present within its populations and through new mutations. Because people remain within African environments, many of the outside adaptations never become necessary. The difference is real but should not be exaggerated. Neanderthal DNA did not create the people who carry it. Most human biology remains shared. Culture changes far faster than anatomy. In the alternate world, a person from the Sahel and a person from the Ethiopian highlands may differ genetically and physically. Both belong to a population history that never passed through the narrow demographic bottleneck of global expansion. The rest of Earth changes more visibly through ecology. No Homo sapiens enters Sahul, the joined Ice Age landmass of Australia and New Guinea. No people burn landscapes there, hunt its animals, or build knowledge around its coasts and deserts. Climate still changes. Droughts still transform vegetation. Species still compete and disappear. Yet human pressure is removed from one of the great extinction debates of our real past. Some Australian megafauna probably survive longer. Giant kangaroos, massive wombat relatives, enormous flightless birds, and large reptiles continue in ecosystems altered only by climate and other animals. Not every species survives to the present. Climate alone can destroy habitats and reduce populations. But the rapid combination of hunting, landscape burning, and ecological disruption associated with human arrival never occurs. The Americas retain mammoths, mastodons, giant ground sloths, glyptodonts, horses, camels, and many other large animals for longer. Again, survival is not certain. The end of the Ice Age changes grasslands, water, and forests. Some species were already vulnerable. Without human hunters, however, extinction patterns are different, and several lineages likely persist in regions suitable for them. New Zealand keeps its moa until other pressures remove them, perhaps for thousands of additional years. Remote Pacific islands remain ecosystems without human settlement. Giant tortoises, large birds, and ground nesting species face no introduced rats, pigs, dogs, or agricultural clearance from Homo sapiens. The world beyond Africa is not untouched. Lightning burns forests, rivers move, volcanoes erupt, glaciers advance and retreat. Other human lineages may alter landscapes. Animals change ecosystems through grazing, predation, and migration. The phrase untouched nature can hide the fact that nature is always active. What is absent is the planetary human footprint. There are no roads across Eurasia, no farms in China, India, Europe, or the Americas, no rice terraces, wheat fields, maize, potato agriculture, or Pacific gardens. No cities alter river systems outside Africa. Forests cover regions that became farmland in our history. Grasslands follow animal migrations without fences. Carbon remains stored in soils and vegetation that human agriculture and industry never disturb. Climate still changes naturally. The planet enters the Holocene. Ice retreats. Sea level rises. Monsoons shift. Later, volcanic eruptions produce cooling. Solar variability affects weather. But there is no industrial carbon pulse from a global civilization spread across continents. Africa itself is transformed much more intensely. A continent holding all Homo sapiens carries every farm, mine, city, state, road, and industrial system our species builds. The human footprint is concentrated rather than global. Some regions are cultivated for thousands of years. Forests retreat around dense settlements. Rivers are diverted. Wildlife declines near cities. Extinctions continue within Africa despite the long coexistence between large animals and hominins. Africa's megafauna had evolved alongside human ancestors and often possessed stronger behavioral defenses than animals on continents first encountering Homo sapiens. That does not make elephants, rhinoceroses, giraffes, great apes, or large carnivores immune to growing populations, weapons, habitat loss, and trade. By the time major cities appear, conservation becomes a political question far earlier than in our history. A kingdom controlling a river valley learns that killing too many elephants reduces forest paths and seed dispersal. Pastoral federations restrict grazing during drought. Coastal states create seasonal fishing closures. Other rulers ignore limits and cause collapse. Some species survive because they are sacred. Others disappear because sacred ownership concentrates hunting rights among elites. No world becomes ecologically wise merely by avoiding global migration. The alternate civilizations continue developing through competition and exchange. A cluster of Western river cities perfects iron tools and water management. Highland states build terraced agriculture around teff, inset, legumes, and cattle. Forest kingdoms organize tree crops, yams, oils, medicine, and long-distance trade. Nile societies connect equatorial lakes to the northern coast through boats, canals, and roads. Southern mining centers exchange metals for grain, textiles, salt, and knowledge. There are no horses. This changes speed and power. Cattle and donkeys pull loads. People ride some cattle in limited contexts, but no animal combines the speed, endurance, and military effect of the domesticated horse. Chariot warfare never appears. Cavalry does not create the same empires. Long-distance messages move by runners, relay boats, and eventually mechanical systems. Armies travel more slowly. Supply remains tied to rivers and roads. The absence of sheep and goats changes pastoral life as well. African cattle, donkeys, and locally domesticated or managed species fill some roles. Fiber comes from plants, bark, leather, and regional animals. Mountain grazing develops differently. No chicken becomes a nearly universal small livestock animal. Eggs and meat come from local birds, fish, insects, and larger animals. The absence of wheat, barley, Asian rice, maize, and potatoes prevents the exact agricultural foundations of many real states. African crops take their place, but yields, seasons, storage, disease, and labor requirements differ. Plant breeders select pearl millet for dry regions, African rice for wetlands, sorghum for multiple climates, yams for forest margins, and inset for reliable highland calories. Domestication produces varieties that never existed in our world because more human attention is concentrated on them. Some become extraordinarily productive. A drought-resistant sorghum complex supports cities across the Sahel. New fermentation methods improve nutrition. Aquaculture expands along lakes and floodplains. Oil-rich tree crops support dense forest populations without clearing every canopy. Agricultural science develops through centuries of trials recorded in public seed archives. Population rises. There is no responsible way to assign one number to the alternate present. Africa's carrying capacity would depend on technologies that cannot be predicted, including sanitation, medicine, energy, crops, transport, and governance. A less technologically connected world might contain tens or hundreds of millions. A highly developed industrial branch could support more than 1 billion, especially if food, water, and energy systems become efficient. It would almost certainly contain fewer people than the more than 8 billion spread across our entire inhabited planet. It could still be crowded. Cities become larger along coasts, rivers, highlands, and temperate southern regions. The Sahara, now dry again, becomes both barrier and engineering challenge. Without camels, ancient trans-desert trade relies more heavily on donkeys, cattle, river corridors, seasonal routes, and eventually mechanical transport. Coastal shipping around Africa becomes more important than crossing the desert. Sailors map the entire continental coastline. They know the northern shore faces another land across the Mediterranean. They know Arabia lies beyond the Red Sea. They see islands offshore. They sometimes land, gather water, and return. Yet no permanent population establishes itself. The old boundary becomes harder to maintain as ships improve. A maritime republic on the eastern coast sends 3 vessels toward Arabia nearly 4,000 years before the alternate present. 2 return after finding dry coast and hostile conditions. The 3rd disappears. Its fate becomes a political weapon. Priests call it punishment. Merchants call it poor planning. Families of the lost call it theft by leaders seeking glory. A century later, another state proposes settlement across the northern sea. Rival states oppose the plan because an external colony could control trade and attack from beyond familiar defenses. They form a treaty prohibiting permanent settlements outside Africa unless approved by a continental council that does not yet exist. The treaty fails in most matters. It succeeds at delaying migration. A private expedition reaches a fertile Mediterranean coast. The settlers remain for 6 years. Then disease spreads through the small colony. Crops fail after unusual cold. A relief fleet arrives late and returns with fewer than half the population. The survivors bring an epidemic. It begins with fever, bleeding, and severe weakness. The pathogen may have circulated in Eurasian animals or surviving archaic humans. The colony had little immunity. The returning sailors carry it to 3 African ports. Trade spreads it inland. The epidemic kills hundreds of thousands. Later generations remember it as the outer fever. The name transforms caution into law. Coastal states create quarantine stations. Ships returning from islands or foreign shores must wait offshore. Permanent settlement beyond the continent becomes associated not only with wasted lives, but with continental danger. Medical knowledge improves because of the disaster, yet the political lesson remains simple. Crossing brings risks that distance hides. This is the cultural mechanism that allows tonight's unlikely condition to persist into a more advanced age. It is not universal fear. It is a boundary institution. The line of return begins as a network of coastal laws. People may fish, survey, collect samples, and visit near islands. They may not establish families or permanent communities beyond Africa. Expeditions require records, quarantine, and a return plan. Violations occur. Smugglers use islands. Exiles disappear across water. A few children are born outside and brought back. Still, no self-sustaining Homo sapiens society persists beyond the continent. The law survives because powerful states benefit from keeping population, trade, and taxation within familiar territory. Religious traditions absorb it. Ecologists later defend it. Families remember the outer fever. Philosophers argue that the uninhabited continents belong to other life. An accident of prehistory becomes a civilizational identity. That identity does not prevent exploration through machines. Technology advances unevenly. Water wheels, wind systems, improved metallurgy, printing, optics, chemistry, and mechanical clocks emerge through internal exchange. Without global trade, some materials and ideas are unavailable. Without enormous independent centers of innovation in Eurasia, the Americas, and elsewhere, cumulative development may be slower. On the other hand, African networks connect dense and diverse societies across a continent, and concentrated investment solves local problems with remarkable sophistication. There is no European industrial revolution. There may be an African one. Coal exists in several regions. So do iron, copper, cobalt, uranium, sunlight, wind, rivers, geothermal heat, and biological fuels. Steam engines could emerge from mining and water needs. Electrical science does not require a European language or institution. Magnetism, lightning, chemistry, and mathematics are properties of the world. The path differs. Because coastal states fear smoke-borne disease and crowded urban air after repeated epidemics. Early industrial regulation limits coal combustion near cities. Mechanical power develops through river systems, high-pressure steam in remote mining zones, and later solar heat in arid regions. Electricity spreads through continental grids. Rail replaces the missing horse as the great accelerator of inland movement. The first rail lines transform the Sahara. Engineers build routes between northern ports, Sahel cities, and western river systems. Trains carry grain, salt, metals, people, and water equipment. Desert towns grow around maintenance stations. The barrier that once divided human populations becomes infrastructure. Internal migration intensifies. Millions move toward industrial centers. Languages mix. Old identities change. States form federations because no single empire can govern the continent's scale. Wars occur over mines, rivers, labor, religion, and succession. Weapons industrialize. Without external colonies to conquer, powerful states turn toward weaker African regions. Colonialism does not disappear. Its direction changes. There is no European conquest of Africa, no Atlantic slave trade to plantations in the Americas, and no racial order built around that history. There are still empires that seize land, demand tribute, move captives, suppress languages, and extract resources. Coastal industrial powers may dominate inland societies. River states may force labor for dams and rail. A continent can colonize itself politically even when all parties share deep ancestry. Resistance shapes the eventual continental order. Workers organize in mines and factories. Farmers oppose land seizure. Subject peoples demand language rights. Women challenge inheritance systems. Religious minorities seek protection. Former empires become republics, federations, or constitutional monarchies. Borders remain contested because rivers, migration routes, and language communities rarely fit clean lines. The idea of common humanity develops through conflict rather than geographic sameness. By the alternate 20th century, representatives from hundreds of states and nations create the Continental Assembly. Its first purpose is preventing another industrial war. Its second is managing shared rivers. Its third is controlling the line of return. Scientists have already sent unmanned aircraft beyond Africa. Balloons cross the Mediterranean. Remote vessels follow coastlines into Asia and Europe. Later, satellites map the entire planet. Humanity finally sees how much land exists beyond its home. The images create wonder and anger. Eurasia is not a blank surface. Forests cover enormous regions. Herds move through grasslands. Ice shapes the north. Ruins from other human lineages appear in caves and valleys. In some regions, stone tools are so recent that debate erupts over whether non-sapiens humans might still survive. Search missions find no living population. They find evidence that Neanderthals survived much longer than in our world in several refuges. One cave holds remains only 18,000 years old. Another lineage persisted in high Asian valleys until perhaps 10,000 years ago. The dates are uncertain. The conclusion is not. Homo sapiens had not been alone on Earth for most of its African confinement. The discovery changes philosophy. Some people interpret the extinct lineages as proof that Africa protected Homo sapiens. Others see them as a warning against remaining geographically concentrated. Religious communities debate whether those humans possessed souls, personhood, or ancestral relation. Geneticists recover fragments of DNA and compare them with African genomes that contain no later Eurasian admixture. Children learn that the outer world once held other kinds of people. They also learn that Homo sapiens never met them in a sustained way. A grief develops for relationships that never happened. There was no interbreeding, no shared child, no exchange of tools or stories. There was also no displacement by our expanding species. The histories remained separate until one ended. Satellites reveal another truth. The outer continents hold animals unknown to African civilization. Mammoths survive in isolated northern regions. Their numbers are small but stable. Giant ground sloths remain in parts of South America. Horses roam Eurasia and the Americas without ever becoming human transport. Camels exist in wild forms beyond Africa. Australian ecosystems still contain several large species lost in our history. Pacific Islands retain birds that never learned to fear people. The planet feels both abundant and fragile. The line of return gains ecological defenders. They argue that continents without Homo sapiens are the last great evolutionary laboratories on Earth. A permanent settlement would bring hunting, agriculture, roads, microbes, invasive species, and eventual political claims. Human history inside Africa shows how quickly useful land becomes owned land. The Open Earth movement answers that one species should not remain confined by ancient fear. Geographic distribution would protect humanity from continental catastrophe. Research stations could operate under strict ecological rules. The outer world is not sacred merely because humans are absent. Humans are animals too. The debate lasts generations. It becomes personal for Dr. Amara Ndoye. Amara is born in a city on the edge of the restored northern grasslands, in the year that would correspond roughly to the early 21st century in our history. The Sahara is still mostly desert, but solar-powered desalination, underground water management, and careful grazing have created inhabited corridors. High-speed rail links the Atlantic coast, Nile Basin, Sahel, and Mediterranean cities. Her father maintains atmospheric observatories. Her mother teaches population history. Their apartment contains maps of a planet no member of the family has visited beyond Africa. Amara becomes a paleogeneticist. She studies ancient human remains because the question of departure has become central to continental politics. Open Earth supporters claim humans have always been explorers and that the line of return violates our nature. Boundary defenders claim the earliest crossings were catastrophic and that confinement produced continental solidarity. Amara distrusts both stories. Nature does not issue political instructions. At 58, she leads an excavation near an ancient shoreline on the African side of the Red Sea. Sea level is higher than in Sirah's time, so the old coast lies inland beneath layers of sediment. The team finds stone tools, shell beads, animal bone, and fragments of reed fiber preserved in mineral-rich mud. One object is a wooden paddle tip. Most wood from 70,000 years ago would be gone. This fragment survived through rare conditions and partial mineralization. It shows wear from water and a repair made with twisted fiber. Nearby are tools made from stone whose source lies on the African side. The site does not prove a successful crossing. It proves preparation. Amara reconstructs the scene cautiously. People gathered near the shore. They built or repaired watercraft. Some may have crossed. Some may have returned. The old stories of one forbidden disaster cannot be connected to one archaeological group. Yet the paddle becomes famous. News reports call it the first refusal, as though someone held a vote beside the Ice Age sea. Open Earth campaigners call it the first horizon. Boundary leaders place its image beside the line of return. Amara spends years correcting claims nobody once corrected. There was no single decision, she says in interviews. There were many movements and many failures. Our confinement was not chosen once. It accumulated. The sentence makes her politically useful. The Continental Assembly appoints her to the Boundary Science Council, which reviews proposals for human travel beyond Africa. The council includes ecologists, physicians, historians, engineers, ethicists, representatives of coastal communities, and delegates selected by lottery. The current proposal is larger than any before it. An unmanned network has built a research base across the Red Sea on the Arabian coast. Robots assembled sealed habitats, water systems, laboratories, and a small landing port. The site occupies previously barren ground and is designed to prevent organisms from escaping in either direction. For 8 years, machines have tested disease exposure, climate, soil, and ecological impact. The base is ready for people. 6 scientists, 2 engineers, 1 physician, and 2 civic observers could live there for 18 months. They would not found a colony. No children would be born there. No private ownership would be allowed. Every material would be tracked. The crew would return. It would still in the oldest condition in human history. For the first time, a continuously resident Homo sapiens group would live beyond Africa, even though it remained dependent on African systems and planned to return. Amara is asked to lead the scientific review. Her daughter, Lela, applies for the crew. Lela is 29, an ecosystem engineer who studies closed habitats. She grew up hearing Amara insist that ancient evidence should not be turned into myth. To Lela, the logical conclusion is obvious. If the boundary was not chosen, she says, we are allowed to choose now. Amara replies that permission and wisdom are different questions. Their argument begins politely. It does not remain that way. Lela accuses the council of using uncertainty as an excuse for paralysis. Amara accuses her daughter of treating the outer continents as a stage for personal courage. Lela says every generation of boundary officials describes explorers as selfish. Amara says explorers often leave ecological costs for people who never approve them. You are not afraid of Arabia, Lela says. You are afraid history will stop needing your expertise. The sentence hurts because it contains enough truth to survive denial. Amara's career exists because humanity never left Africa. The first successful departure would not erase her knowledge, but it would change its meaning. She has spent her life studying a closed door. Lela wants to open it. The council delays its decision after climate models issue a warning. Rainfall across several major agricultural regions is becoming unusually synchronized. An ocean circulation shift has weakened moisture reaching the western Sahel. Heat is damaging highland crops. A fungal disease has appeared in 2 widely planted sorghum varieties. None of these events alone threatens continental civilization. Together, they reveal the weakness Ebony's world understood. Humanity still has no geographic backup beyond Africa. Seed banks contain enormous diversity. Automated greenhouses can produce emergency food. Desalination and energy networks reduce dependence on rainfall. Trade can move supplies across the continent. The crisis is manageable under expected conditions. Expected conditions are changing. Open Earth campaigners seize the moment. They argue that the Arabian base is not adventure, but species insurance. Boundary defenders reply that a small station cannot feed billions, and that exporting people does not solve agricultural vulnerability. Ecologists warn that panic is the worst foundation for planetary expansion. Amara tries to keep the review scientific. The science refuses to become simple. The first months of the food crisis are quieter than the political debate surrounding them. Sorghum leaves curl at their edges. Highland inset grows more slowly. Reservoirs fall by percentages that seem small until multiplied across millions of households. Farmers change planting dates. Agricultural systems recommend mixtures of older seed varieties. Public kitchens add more cassava, yam, millet, fish, algae, and greenhouse-grown foods. No one starves in the major cities. That success creates dangerous confidence. The continental food network was designed around regional failure. Grain moves from wetter zones to drier ones. Seed reserves replace damaged harvests. Synthetic fertilizers are used sparingly where soil restoration cannot respond fast enough. Automated trains and electric freight vessels move supplies without relying on market prices during declared emergencies. Then 3 regions request emergency support at once. The Western Sahel needs grain. Eastern Highlands need disease-resistant planting material. Southern cities face a marine heat event that has reduced coastal fisheries. The system can serve all 3, but only by drawing down reserves intended for the following year. The question changes from whether people will eat to how much uncertainty the future can carry. Amara travels to the Central Seed Archive near the old inland delta. The building stands partly underground, surrounded by wetlands restored to protect it from heat and dust. Millions of seed samples are stored there, alongside fungal cultures, soil microbes, plant tissue, and genetic records. Copies exist in regional archives. One archive is no archive. The phrase appears above the entrance in several languages. Ebony would have understood it. The director, Dr. Keto Bamba, leads Amara through cold chambers filled with crops transformed by thousands of years of selection. Sorghum seeds range from pale gold to nearly black. African rice varieties tolerate flood, drought, salt, shade, and poor soil in different combinations. Millet adapted to short seasons sits beside strains bred for deep roots. Inset tissues preserve lineages grown by families whose names survive in farming records. This is our second continent, Keto says. He means genetic diversity. The phrase troubles Amara. A seed bank is not a continent. It cannot replace distance between populations, independent weather systems, or entire ecosystems outside one region. Yet the archive represents a form of resilience more practical than placing 11 people in Arabia. Keto opens a case containing wild relatives of several major crops. Their yields are poor. Their resistance is valuable. Breeders and automated laboratories are already crossing old varieties, testing gene expression, and growing thousands of combinations under simulated future climates. The fungal disease affecting sorghum has been identified. It spreads through spores carried by wind and trade. Most commercial varieties share a vulnerability introduced when breeders selected for high yield decades earlier. Older landraces resist infection through several different mechanisms. The solution exists. Producing enough seed takes time. Time becomes the most important resource in the crisis. The Boundary Science Council requests a revised risk assessment. If major crop systems failed together, could off-continent settlements preserve the species? The answer is no in the near term. One base cannot support a population large enough to preserve human diversity or civilization. Building many bases would require decades and enormous ecological intervention. Could geographic dispersal reduce long-term extinction risk? Yes. A species living on one continent is more exposed to continent-scale events than one distributed across the planet. Asteroid impact, extreme volcanic sequences, engineered pathogens, warfare, and climate disruption do not respect borders, but distance can prevent total correlation. No serious risk model recommends placing every critical system in one location. Would settlement beyond Africa threaten outside ecosystems? Yes. Even small human groups carry microbes, seeds, insects, waste, noise, and political momentum. A temporary base can become a permanent foothold. Infrastructure attracts further infrastructure. The first settlement creates arguments for the second. Ecological controls reduce risk without removing it. Would the outer continents remain permanently undisturbed if humans stayed away? No. Climate change caused by African industrial activity already affects the whole planet. Although emissions are lower than in our history because population and industry are smaller and energy shifted earlier toward low-carbon sources. Satellites fall. Remote machines sample land. Pollution crosses oceans. Human absence is not complete non-interference. The review becomes a record of honest contradictions. Lela is selected as one of 3 final candidates for the mission's ecosystem engineering role. She tells Amara only after the list becomes public. "You knew I applied," she says. "I did not know you were still in the process. You did not ask." Amara wants to answer that a mother should not have to ask. Lela plans to become one of the first people to leave the continent. Instead, she says, "I am chairing the review." I know. That creates a conflict. It created one before I was born. Lela has lived her entire life inside the politics of Amara's work. Schoolmates asked whether her mother was the woman who guarded the world. Teachers invited Amara to speak about origins. Family holidays near the coast became unofficial field visits. The boundary was never only a line on a map. Amara offers to step away from the review. Lela refuses. "If you step away because of me, everyone will say the mission passed because your daughter wanted it or failed because you were afraid. Stay. Make the decision you would make if I were somebody else." That is impossible. Then admit the decision was never only scientific. Amara does admit it, privately. Every decision about leaving Africa contains values. How much risk may one generation impose on another? Does an uninhabited continent have a claim against settlement? Can humanity call land empty when it is full of life? Does species survival justify expansion? Can laws written after ancient disasters bind people forever? The questions cannot be solved by estimating probabilities alone. The food crisis worsens during the second year. A strong dust season carries fungal spores farther south. Automated field systems remove infected plants, but the disease appears in 2 new production zones. Emergency breeders release a resistant variety called Nalo 7, named after a reconstructed ancient root word for water memory. The crop grows well in trials. Farmers distrust it. The variety was developed rapidly through automated genomic selection. It has passed safety review. Yet many communities remember earlier government programs that replaced diverse local crops with standardized seed, increasing vulnerability. They refuse to plant a solution controlled by central institutions. Keto asks Amara to join a meeting with farming councils. "You study why people did not cross one boundary," he says. "I need help with another." The meeting takes place in a dry western district where fields extend between restored tree corridors. Farmers sit beneath a shade structure. Agricultural models project rainfall possibilities. Government representatives explain Nalo 7. Nobody is convinced by higher resolution charts. A farmer named Safi Diallo holds up two seed heads. One is Nalo 7. The other is a local sorghum selected by her family for 6 generations. The new one resists this disease, she says. What happens when the next disease comes? A breeder explains that Nalo 7 contains multiple resistance pathways. Safi asks who can reproduce the breeding system if the central network fails. The breeder says regional laboratories have copies. Safi asks who owns the parent lines. The government representative says they are part of the public seed commons. Safi looks toward Amara. Then why did the seed arrive with instructions telling us what percentage of our field must use it? The instructions were intended to coordinate resistance and prevent the fungus from evolving around one defense. They sound like control because they are control. Amara thinks of the line of return. A rule can begin as protection and become identity. It can preserve life and remove choice at the same time. She proposes a compromise. Nalo 7 will be planted in mixed fields with local varieties. Farmers will choose combinations with support from regional laboratories. Every resulting seed line will remain locally reproducible and publicly documented. No district will be required to abandon its own crop. Monitoring will compare disease evolution across mixtures. The plan is less efficient than a continent-wide standardized response. It is adopted because people trust it enough to participate. Rain returns late. The harvest is poor but sufficient. The crisis does not end. It changes shape. The successful mixed fields weaken the argument for emergency migration. Open Earth supporters accuse the Council of using every internal adaptation as a reason to delay geographic resilience. Boundary defenders claim the crisis proves Africa can solve its own problems. Both turn a harvest into ideology. Amara returns to the Red Sea excavation. She needs distance from the Council, although the site is physically close to the boundary at the center of it. The paddle fragment has been removed to a museum. New excavation exposes a shallow depression lined with stones. Chemical traces suggest water skins may have been stored there. A cluster of shell beads lies beside child-sized footprints preserved in hardened sediment. The child was standing near prepared boats. Amara kneels beside the prints. Archaeology cannot tell whether the child crossed, watched others leave, or arrived after a return. It cannot tell whether the expedition failed. The evidence is incomplete in the most human way. Objects remain. Motives do not. A field assistant finds an unusual stone flake. Its geology does not match known African sources. Laboratory analysis identifies volcanic material consistent with the Arabian side of the Red Sea. The simplest explanation is that someone crossed and brought it back. The discovery becomes the oldest strong evidence of a return movement in the region. Human beings did not merely stand at the edge and refuse. At least one person or one exchanged object moved across the water and returned to Africa. The boundary story changes again. Open Earth campaigners celebrate. Ancient humans crossed before the line of return. Boundary leaders answer that the person came back, proving return was always the rule. Amara issues the only statement the evidence supports. The object crossed. We do not know how, why, or in whose hand. Nobody uses the sentence as printed. Lella visits the excavation at sunset. Mother and daughter walk along the ancient shore, now dry land. Modern water glows several kilometers away. Across it, lights from the unmanned Arabian base blink at regular intervals. You can see it, Lella says. On a clear night. It is closer than some districts of the city. Distance is not measured only in kilometers. Lella picks up a modern pebble and throws it toward the old waterline. The first people did not know what was across. They knew enough to try, and enough to return. They stand beside the child's footprints. Lella asks whether Amara would have crossed 70,000 years ago. No, the answer arrives too quickly. Because of the boats. Because I am not brave on water. Lella laughs, and some tension leaves them. Amara asks the same question. Yes, Lella says. Then I would have regretted it during the storm. You assumed there was a storm. You put one in every lecture. I describe currents. You describe currents like moral forces. Amara does not deny it. Lella's voice becomes quieter. I do not want to conquer anything. I want to know what it feels like to stand where no Homo sapiens community has stood. Many individuals may have stood there, then where none remained. Amara looks across the darkening land. Remaining is the part that changes the world. The first public hearing on the Arabian mission lasts 9 days. Ecologists present invasion models. Physicians explain quarantine. Engineers describe habitat redundancy. Population geneticists estimate how many people would be required for a viable, independent population if contact with Africa were lost. The answer is far larger than the proposed crew and depends on reproductive technology, genetic archives, age structure, and social stability. Historians describe how temporary trading posts became colonies in African history. Lawyers propose a charter denying territorial ownership. Indigenous rights scholars object to borrowing a legal framework created for human communities when no Homo sapiens population lives beyond Africa. Animal ethicists argue that large ecosystems deserve representation. A representative from the Northern Pastoral Federation asks one question. If people go, who can order them back? The mission director says the base depends on African power, supplies, and communication. Then they are not independent. No, so this is not settlement. It is a research residence. Then why does everyone speak as though history ends? Because symbols can be larger than infrastructure. On the final day, an elderly man named Barrow Cone addresses the assembly. He survived the last industrial war as a child. His family fled across 4 borders within Africa. He supports the mission. We talk about one continent as if it were one home, he says. It was not one home when armed people came to our village. Distance saved us. Another government accepted us. Another climate fed us. We already know the value of more than one refuge. An ecologist named Jamila Okafor responds. The outer continents are not unclaimed emergency rooms. They are living systems. Every human refuge becomes someone else's changed habitat. Barrow nods. That is true of every place we already live. The debate does not resolve. The council votes narrowly to approve the mission under strict conditions. Amara votes against it. Her vote is not decisive. The mission passes by 3 votes. Lella is selected. For several weeks, they speak only about practical matters. Vaccinations, communication schedules, what objects Lella may carry, how long quarantine will last before departure and after return. Amara helps review the environmental protocols even though her formal role has ended. The mission is scheduled for the following dry season. Then the Central Seed Archive loses power. The failure begins during a night of extreme heat. A regional transformer disconnects after a fire in underground infrastructure. The archive's local grid switches to storage. Cooling continues. 2 hours later, a software update causes several storage units to misreport battery condition. Backup generators start, but one fuel system has been replaced by a newer hydrogen unit, still awaiting final certification. Nothing should depend on one sequence. Several failures align. Hito wakes to an alert stating that one chamber has risen by 2 degrees. By the time he reaches the archive, 3 chambers are warming. Plant tissue cultures are more vulnerable than dry seed. Microbial collections begin losing viability. Regional systems can restore power, but a heat-driven grid emergency has placed hospitals and water pumping ahead of research facilities. The archive has local authority to override priority. Hito refuses. No seed is worth cutting water to a city tonight, he says. Staff begin moving the most vulnerable material into mobile cooling units. Robots carry thousands of cases. Humans verify labels, and choose priorities when capacity runs out. Automated systems rank collections by uniqueness, agricultural value, and replacement difficulty. The ranking places several culturally important local varieties below wild genetic material with greater modeled future utility. Safi Diallo sees the list from her district. She calls keto. Do not let them erase the seed because a model says another one has more possible futures. Keto has no time for philosophical precision. He asks Samara to come. She arrives before dawn. The archive corridors are warm enough that cold vapor no longer forms at each opening door. Staff work in silence. Machines move faster than people. The problem is not labor. It is value. Which forms of life deserve the last cooling capacity? A wild grass may contain resistance to a disease that does not yet exist. A farmer's seed may hold cultural memory, taste, ritual, and local trust. A microbial culture may support future soil restoration. A rare plant may never become food, but belongs to an ecosystem already shrinking. No algorithm can avoid values because the objective itself contains them. Amara asks how many collections are truly unique. Keto says fewer than the emergency display suggests. Regional archives hold copies of most material. Communication with 2 regions is down, so the central system cannot verify them. One archive is no archive. The phrase is being tested. Amara proposes treating unverified copies as existing unless evidence shows otherwise. This allows local mobile units to prioritize collections known to have no duplicate. It risks losing material if a regional copy has already failed. Keto agrees. They also change the ranking. Each mobile unit will carry a mixture: wild genetic diversity, major crops, local landraces, microbes, and culturally protected material. No category receives total priority. The decision sacrifices efficiency to prevent one worldview from controlling the loss. Power returns after 9 hours. Most collections survive. Some tissue cultures do not. Several rare microbial lines are lost. One ancient yam variety from a forest region survives only because a technician placed it inside a medical transport cooler beneath her seat. No continent-wide famine follows. The archive failure matters because it reveals how close resilience can come to becoming a slogan. Amara stands outside with keto after sunrise. Emergency vehicles leave. Wetland birds move through shallow water as though no crisis occurred. We almost lost the second continent, he says. No, Amara replies. We almost learned it was never a continent. Keto is too tired to argue. The failure strengthens both sides of the migration debate. Open Earth says duplication must include another continent. Boundary defenders say a remote base would have depended on the same networks that failed. Engineers accelerate construction of independent regional archives. The Continental Assembly funds 3 additional seed systems in climatically different zones. Lela's departure remains scheduled. Amara asks her daughter to delay. For how long? 1 year. Until the archive reforms are complete. The base has its own genetic collection. That is not the point. Then what is? Amara searches for an answer that is not fear. We keep discovering that our systems are less resilient than their names. I do not want the first mission built on confidence we have not earned. Lela's expression changes. You think I am one of the collections. What? You want to keep a copy of me where you can verify it. The cruelty is precise because Lela immediately regrets it. Amara says nothing. Lela apologizes. Amara accepts the apology without pretending the wound is gone. The mission remains scheduled, but launch day does not produce the image the continent has been waiting for. It produces an alarm. The crew enters quarantine 6 days before departure. Their clothing, food, tools, medical supplies, and personal objects are cataloged. Air passes through layered filters. Cargo modules are sealed and tested repeatedly. The vessel waits on the coastal platform above the old shore. Millions of people follow the final checks, although daily life continues around the event. Farmers plant mixed sorghum fields. Trains carry emergency grain. Hospitals begin morning rounds. Children argue about who should step onto the far shore first. Lela is already inside the vessel when a sensor on one cargo module detects fungal material related to the recent sorghum outbreak. The departure sequence stops automatically. Doors seal between compartments. The suspect module is disconnected and moved into an isolation chamber. A second test finds no intact pathogen. A third detects fragments too damaged to determine whether they came from a living spore or harmless residue. Public interpretation arrives faster than laboratory certainty. Boundary supporters say the ancient prohibition has protected the world again. Open Earth campaigners say the system has demonstrated exactly why a controlled mission is safer than secret travel. Farmers ask why any organism from a continental crop crisis was allowed near the vessel. Conspiracy networks claim the signal was planted. The mission director requests a replacement module and a 6-hour delay. Amara does not approve the delay. Her formal authority ended when the council completed its vote, but the contamination protocol allows any member of the scientific review to demand a deeper investigation. She uses that power. Lela calls from quarantine. "You voted against the mission," she says. "Now you are stopping it after the vote." "I am stopping one launch sequence. Because one sensor found broken DNA. Because we do not know what it found. We never know everything." No, but sometimes not knowing is the result. The words sound colder than Amara intends. Lela ends the call. Sequencing continues through the day. The result is more complicated than a positive or negative test. The module carries no viable sample of the epidemic fungus. It carries traces of dozens of organisms common in African agricultural environments: harmless yeasts, soil bacteria, plant viruses unable to infect animals, fragments of pollen, and fungal species that live on human skin and clothing. The cargo was sterilized according to every approved standard. It is still biologically African. A technician explains that complete sterilization would destroy parts of the equipment. Even if every surface could be made lifeless, the crew could not. 11 people contain trillions of microorganisms. Their bodies depend on them. Skin, gut, mouth, lungs, and clothing form moving ecosystems. A human being cannot travel as one isolated species. Amara presents the finding to the Emergency Council. "We have been speaking as though we are sending people," she says. "We are sending communities of life whose membership we do not fully know." The mission physicians answer that none of this is surprising. Closed habitats already manage human microbiomes. Waste is sterilized. Air and water are filtered. Suits prevent direct contact. The crew can live inside the base without releasing organisms into the Arabian environment. Risk cannot become zero, but it can remain extremely low. Then the unmanned base reports a pressure loss. A dust storm has damaged an exterior service seal. The living habitat remains intact, but one maintenance compartment briefly exchanges air with the surrounding environment. Robots isolate the section. Samples are collected inside and outside the breach. No human has entered the base, and no crew has crossed the sea. Yet several microorganisms associated with African manufacturing facilities are found near the outer seal. They probably arrived years earlier on construction equipment. The concentrations are tiny. Most organisms are already dead. None appears to spread. The discovery is not an ecological disaster. It is evidence that the supposedly untouched line had become porous before anyone noticed. Machines built in Africa had already carried traces of Africa across the water. The council postpones departure for 30 days. Lela leaves quarantine furious. She refuses to speak with Amara for the first week. Then the mission team is asked to participate in a full review of what the base is meant to accomplish. The original proposal contains several goals: scientific research, Ecological observation. Testing long-duration, closed habitats. Cultural exchange with no one, because no Homo sapiens society exists across the shore. Symbolic departure. Long-term protection of the species. The first three goals can be achieved largely by machines. Symbolism requires people. Species protection requires far more than 11. Population geneticists repeat what they said during the hearings. A small crew cannot preserve the biological or cultural diversity of humanity. Even with genetic archives and reproductive technology, a truly independent population would require hundreds or thousands of people. It would also need stable institutions, food production, medical capacity, education, energy, manufacturing, and the ability to repair every essential system without African support. That would not be a research visit. It would be settlement. Settlement would require land, water, waste systems, agriculture or large industrial food production, roads between facilities, and continuous movement of organisms. A self-sustaining refuge could not remain a perfectly sealed box forever. The very scale required to protect humanity from continental catastrophe would create the ecological transformation boundary defenders feared. The smaller mission, therefore, occupies an uncomfortable middle. It is too small to provide meaningful species insurance and large enough to become a political precedent. It may produce valuable science, but science alone does not explain why people must be physically present when machines already work there. Lela argues that presence changes knowledge. A person notices what a remote instrument was never designed to record. Living inside an environment shapes questions. Embodied experience matters. Amara agrees. The agreement makes the conflict harder. During the postponement, Lela visits the Central Seed Archive. She expects to find her mother's argument preserved in cold rooms. Instead, Keto makes her spend 3 days with the regional duplication teams. They map which collections survived the power failure, which were lost, and which only appeared unique because communication had failed. Resilience does not come from one perfect archive. It comes from imperfect copies held under different conditions by people able to cooperate. Lela then travels west to Safi Diallo's district. Mixed fields are ripening unevenly. Nalo 7 grows beside local sorghum lines. Some plants resist the fungus. Others tolerate heat better. A few fail completely. Farmers mark the survivors and exchange seed across neighboring communities. Safi asks whether Arabia can grow sorghum. In some regions, Lela says, "Will your 11 people grow enough to feed us?" No. Will they preserve these seeds if every archive here fails? They can preserve samples. Can they preserve why my family keeps this one? Safi lifts a seed head with red grain. It produces less than newer varieties. It is used for a fermented food prepared during funerals and reconciliation ceremonies. Its value exists partly in the relationships surrounding it. Lela says the record can be copied. Safi smiles without cruelty. A record of a relationship is not another relationship. The sentence follows Lela back to the coast. She still wants to cross. Desire does not disappear when an argument becomes complicated. She wants to see the base windows brighten around her. She wants to step onto ground separated from every human settlement by 70,000 years of absence. She wants to know the stars from the far shore. She also begins to understand that the mission has collected too many promises. It promises science, courage, unity, ecological restraint, and survival. No 11 people can carry all of them. The council reconvenes. Engineers propose stricter containment. The crew could remain inside sealed habitats for the full 18 months. Exterior work would be performed by robots. Human bodies would never contact open air or soil. Under that plan, the mission could depart safely enough by existing standards. Lela asks what safely enough means. The engineers provide probabilities. The estimates are low. The uncertainties are large around rare failures. One ecologist compares the risk with operating a high-containment laboratory. Another objects that a laboratory can be shut down and cleaned. A continent cannot. Open Earth delegates accuse the Council of treating every unknown as a veto. Boundary delegates answer that irreversible change deserves a higher standard than ordinary research. Barrow Cohn repeats that geographic concentration remains a genuine species risk. Jamila Okafor repeats that a symbolic base does not solve it. The argument reaches the point where every speaker has become predictable. Then Lela requests time. She stands before the assembly wearing the mission badge that identifies her as the selected ecosystem engineer. Amara assumes her daughter will defend the revised plan. Lela begins by doing so. The containment systems are excellent. The crew is trained. The scientific work is valuable. A mission could probably operate without measurable ecological harm. Probably is not the reason I am asking you to stop, she says. The room becomes quiet. Lela explains that the mission's strongest public justification is species resilience. The proposed base cannot provide it. Calling 11 dependent residents a second home for humanity turns symbolism into risk policy. It may make the continent feel safer without making the species meaningfully safer. If we want scientific knowledge, she says, our machines are already collecting it. If we want a true refuge, we must admit what that means. A large, independent society that will alter the place where it lives. We have not made that decision. We have hidden it inside a smaller mission because the smaller mission is easier to love. She removes the mission badge. I applied because I wanted to be first. That is not a scientific reason. It is not a crime either. Curiosity is part of us. But curiosity does not become authority merely because it feels noble. A delegate asks whether she is withdrawing. Yes. The mission commander asks whether she believes no human should ever cross. Lela looks toward the public gallery, where Amara is sitting. No, I believe never is too large a promise, and first is too small a reason. She proposes replacing the crewed mission with a 10-year outer world trust. Robotic stations will continue research under public control. Biological containment standards will be redesigned around the truth that machines also carry ecosystems. The continent will build genuine internal redundancy first. Independent seed archives, medical manufacturing, regional energy islands, protected data systems, and governance able to survive loss of central networks. During those 10 years, the Assembly must debate the real question directly. Does humanity intend to create another self-sustaining society beyond Africa? Not a visit, not a photograph, not 11 people living inside a sealed room. A second human world. The proposal does not satisfy either movement. Open Earth campaigners call 10 years another delay that will become permanent. Boundary defenders reject any process assuming settlement may eventually be legitimate. Mission engineers argue that useful knowledge will be lost without people in the habitat. Several crew members refuse to withdraw. The final vote is closer than the first. Amara votes for Lela's proposal. The crewed mission is suspended. Nothing dramatic happens on the platform. Fuel and energy systems enter standby. Personal cargo is returned. The vessel remains attached to the dock. The robotic Arabian base continues operating across the water. Its lights are visible after sunset. Lela walks out of quarantine carrying the bag she expected to unpack on another continent. Amara waits near the exit. I did not do it for you, Lela says. I know. I still want to go. I know. Part of me hates everyone who is relieved. I know that part too. For the first time since the council began, Amara does not offer an argument. She takes one side of the bag. Lela lets her. Public reaction lasts for years. The suspended mission becomes a symbol used by opposing sides. Some call it the Great Refusal. Others call it the Stolen Shore. The crew members follow different paths. 2 return to engineering. 1 becomes a leading open Earth organizer. Another joins ecological monitoring. Lela directs the new contamination program. Her work takes her to factories, ports, hospitals, farms, and laboratories across Africa. She studies how organisms move through systems designed to appear clean. She discovers that ecological boundaries rarely fail through one dramatic breach. They become porous through dust, packaging, wastewater, maintenance tools, human skin, insects, emergency repairs, and ordinary convenience. The outer world trust changes the robotic basis. Equipment is manufactured in several isolated stages. Materials are tracked biologically as well as chemically. Machines arriving on another continent enter quarantine. Damaged units are not abandoned. Samples are shared openly with ecologists, farmers, public health systems, and neighboring states. No private company may claim discoveries from outer ecosystems as exclusive property. The work produces technology useful inside Africa. Hospitals improve infection control. Seed systems detect fungal movement earlier. Ports reduce invasive species carried between African coasts. Water networks become better at tracing microbial contamination. A mission that never launches still changes the continent. The food crisis gradually passes. Mixed fields, regional seed production, diet changes, water management, and new breeding reduce dependence on vulnerable sorghum varieties. The crisis leaves no single heroic solution. It leaves many institutions. Several independent seed archives open in different climates. Local farming councils receive permanent authority over public breeding programs. Emergency food systems maintain crops that appear inefficient during ordinary years. Amara retires from the Boundary Science Council at 68. Her final speech contains no recommendation about departure. She describes the difference between evidence and inheritance. Evidence tells us what happened, she says. Inheritance tells us what earlier people decided should continue. They are not the same thing. She returns to the ancient Red Sea excavation, where the child's footprints are protected beneath a transparent cover. The Arabian stone flake remains in a museum. The paddle fragment has become an icon she never wanted it to be. A school group asks whether Sira was real. Amara explains that Sira was a name given to possibility. Archaeology preserved no personal name at the site. One child looks disappointed. Then why tell her story? Because populations move through individual feet. Another asks whether the first crossing failed. We do not know. Did they come back? Some object did. Was that good? Amara looks toward the modern water. Good for whom? And for how long? The children dislike the answer. Good questions often survive because answers do not close them. After the group leaves, Lela joins Amara near the shore. She never crossed the Red Sea. She has visited islands considered part of Africa's coastal political world and spent years speaking through machines operating farther away. The line remains physical in her life. Across the water, the robotic base is visible as a row of small lights. Would you vote no again? Lela asks. Yes. Even knowing the controls improved? Yes. Lela nods. So would I. Amara turns toward her. For now, Lela adds. The words do not reopen the old argument. They place it where it belongs. A decision can be correct without becoming eternal. The line of return changes after the suspended mission. It is renamed the Living Shore Accord. The new treaty no longer describes outer land as forbidden or empty. It recognizes ecosystems beyond Africa as subjects of human responsibility. It allows machines, tightly regulated sampling, and emergency contact. It requires a separate continental vote before any crude crossing or permanent settlement. The continent across the water is not a prize. It is not a blank refuge waiting to solve African problems. It is also not a sacred object that human minds must never study. The treaty preserves tension rather than pretending one principle can remove it. Whether that restraint lasts is uncertain. Knowledge does not guarantee patience. A future volcanic eruption, epidemic, war, or political movement may change the vote. Better vessels may make the crossing feel trivial. A generation that did not live through the food crisis may interpret delay differently. Lela may support a later mission under conditions she has not yet imagined. During Amara's life, no Homo sapiens population establishes itself beyond Africa. The hypothetical remains intact. Humanity becomes intelligent, technologically sophisticated, urban, artistic, violent, compassionate, unequal, scientific, and politically complex while remaining concentrated on one continent. Africa contains more than enough environmental and cultural diversity for civilizations to rise in many forms. Agriculture, writing, metallurgy, medicine, astronomy, industry, and computing do not belong to lands outside it. The rest of Earth remains profoundly different. Human population is smaller and geographically concentrated. All modern identities emerge from histories inside Africa. There is no Neanderthal or Denisovan admixture acquired through sustained Eurasian contact. African crops, cattle, donkeys, fish systems, tree crops, and inventions built around them shape civilization. No wheat civilization, rice civilization, maize civilization, potato empire, horse nomadism, or global chicken economy exists. There is no Rome, Han China, Maya City, Inca Road, or Polynesian navigation tradition. There is no European colonization of Africa or Atlantic slavery in its historical form. There are still empires, forced labor, hierarchy, migration, resistance, and reform. The absence of global expansion spares many ecosystems from human arrival. Megafauna outside Africa receive a better chance of survival. Remote islands remain rich in vulnerable species. Forests, grasslands, rivers, and ice follow non-human histories across most of Earth. Africa carries a heavier human ecological burden. It also carries every living member of Homo sapiens, every library, every language, every medical system, every political experiment, and every risk to the species. Technology may develop more slowly without independent human centers across the planet exchanging discoveries. It may also follow paths our history neglected, creating extraordinary knowledge of African crops, disease ecology, solar energy, water systems, tropical medicine, and continental resilience. No exact timeline is defensible. The most honest conclusion is not that humans remain primitive, nor that Africa becomes one harmonious civilization. Geography changes opportunity without dictating capacity. A continent is not a ceiling on intelligence. It is a pattern of constraints, resources, distances, and relationships. Amara and Lela remain beside the shore until evening. Fishing vessels move along the African coast without turning toward Arabia. Research signals cross the water. Data returns. No human body follows it. Lela once believed the difference between courage and fear could be measured by direction. Forward crossed the sea. Backward remained. Her work taught her that direction is not morality. Sometimes courage means entering. Sometimes it means refusing to make desire sound like necessity. Amara once believed caution could remain clean if supported by enough evidence. Her daughter taught her that delay also changes lives. A door kept closed is still a decision about people who wanted to pass through it. The fact that restraint may be wise does not make its cost imaginary. They do not resolve the contradiction. They learn to share it. To understand the full scale of tonight's alternate history, return for a moment to our real one. Our ancestors did leave Africa. Not once, not as one tribe, and not because a single generation decided to populate Earth. Human dispersal was a long sequence of movements shaped by climate, population, coastlines, food, conflict, curiosity, and chance. Archaeological evidence shows repeated hominin expansions into Arabia during brief green periods. Genetic evidence indicates that the major ancestry of present-day populations outside Africa descends largely from an expansion around 50 to 60,000 years ago, while earlier excursions left smaller or uncertain legacies. The people moving did not know they were founding continents. They crossed one valley, shore, river, desert margin, or mountain pass at a time. Some movements failed. Some populations disappeared. Some returned. Some met other human lineages. Between roughly 50,000 and 45,000 years ago, ancestors of most present-day non-Africans mixed with Neanderthals during a relatively limited period. Later populations in Asia and Oceania also inherited ancestry from Denisovan-related groups through more than one encounter. Those meetings became biology carried into the present. The global expansion also carried a founder effect. Populations that moved beyond Africa represented part of the continent's larger diversity. As groups continued east, north, south, and eventually into the Americas and remote islands, new bottlenecks and isolation shaped genetic patterns. Africa retained the greatest depth of human variation, while outside populations developed new adaptations and combinations. No migration made anyone more or less human. Distance created history, not separate origins. People adapted to cold through clothing, shelter, fire, food, and physiology. High-altitude populations developed different biological solutions in Tibet, the Andes, and Ethiopian highlands. Arctic communities built knowledge around ice, sea mammals, seasonal darkness, and extreme cold. Desert, rainforest, island, grassland, and mountain societies created thousands of ways to survive. Humanity became global through culture first. Bodies changed too, but a person's capacity to live in a place often depended more on inherited knowledge than inherited anatomy. Knowing where water hides, how ice moves, which plant is poisonous, how to build a boat when animals migrate, or how to store food can turn a lethal environment into home. In tonight's world, that planetary library never forms. The African library becomes deeper in different directions. More generations refine monsoon prediction, tropical medicine, pastoral movement, dryland crops, forest management, highland agriculture, and river engineering. Technologies developed outside Africa in our history are absent or reinvented. Human imagination is not smaller. Its evidence is concentrated. Our real dispersal also gave humanity geographic resilience. No drought, flood, volcano, or epidemic remained capable of reaching every population in exactly the same way after people occupied distant continents. Even when disasters became global, communities experienced them through different climates, foods, and social systems. Cultural practices lost in one region survived in another. Crops domesticated independently became alternatives when trade connected the world. That resilience came with a cost. Human arrival often transformed ecosystems that had no evolutionary history with our hunting, fire, introduced animals, and land use. The contribution of humans to late Pleistocene extinctions differs by continent and remains debated in detail, but the association between Homo sapiens expansion and major megafaunal decline is difficult to ignore. On islands, the pattern can be especially clear. Animals that had never learned to fear human hunters disappeared rapidly. Later global contact connected crops, ideas, medicines, and people. It also connected conquest, slavery, epidemics, invasive species, and extraction. Migration is not one moral event. The movement of a family escaping drought is not the same as an army claiming land. Exploration is not identical to colonization. Exchange can enrich and destroy at the same time. A global species can build solidarity across distance and invent hierarchies from that distance. Tonight's alternate history removes many real atrocities by removing the circumstances that produced them. European colonialism, The transatlantic slave trade and the violent conquest of the Americas do not occur in their historical forms. The people who committed, resisted, survived, and transformed those histories do not exist as we know them. Other atrocities arise instead. Counterfactual worlds cannot keep only the benefits of change. The alternate Africa may avoid external colonization and still build internal empires. It may preserve mammoths and destroy local rhinoceroses. It may develop continental solidarity and authoritarian border law. It may produce advanced medicine while denying some communities access. It may learn ecological caution and still expand when fear becomes strong enough. There is no innocent timeline waiting beside history. Amara understands this late in life. The public once asked her whether the world would have been better if humans stayed inside Africa. She always refused the comparison. Better for whom? A mammoth in Siberia, a Neanderthal child in a southern refuge, a farmer facing drought, or an enslaved person in either history would answer differently. So would a patient needing medicine invented through global exchange, a forest cleared for a city, or a family saved by migration? One evening, a student asks a more useful question. What did leaving make possible? Amara answers without preparing. More worlds of experience. The student waits. And more ways to damage them, Amara adds. Both belong in the answer. The actual human achievement was not simply conquering distance. It was turning unfamiliar places into lived landscapes through observation, cooperation, memory, and adaptation. The tragedy was that belonging was often followed by the claim that others did not belong. In the alternate history, humanity delays that challenge for 70,000 years. Lela does not cross. Her generation chooses to keep the far shore under observation rather than turn a symbolic visit into a disguised settlement decision. The refusal does not guarantee future restraint. It shows only that history can approach a new place with memory of older mistakes. That is all knowledge can offer, not innocence. A better starting position. Amara dies at 86 in her home near the restored grasslands. Lela is with her. Medical systems manage pain and breathing. Family members arrive from several regions by rail and aircraft. A robotic observatory on the Arabian shore sends a live image of sunrise across the water. Amara watches it for a few minutes. The landscape looks ordinary. That is her final scientific observation. Continents seem enormous on maps and become ground beneath one pair of feet. She asks Lela to close the image. Too bright. Lela asks, "No, I have seen enough shorelines." Her last hours contain no speech about humanity. She asks for water. She complains that a blanket is folded badly. She listens to a recording of rain collected at the old Red Sea excavation. The sound is artificial in one sense and real in another. Water fell. A microphone preserved it. A room plays it again. After her death, public institutions propose naming the Arabian base after her. Lela refuses on the family's behalf. Amara spent her career resisting the conversion of uncertainty into monuments. The base keeps its geographic name. A small plaque is placed at the African excavation instead. It carries no image of a heroic traveler. It reads, "No single step explains a migration." Children continue walking past it. Decades later, no permanent Homo sapiens community exists beyond Africa. Robotic stations operate on several continents, and crude proposals return whenever crisis makes geographic concentration feel newly dangerous. A volcanic eruption that disrupts African agriculture for 2 years produces the strongest campaign yet for a second human homeland. An introduced fungus found near one robotic base strengthens the opposite movement. The vote is delayed again. Restraint survives, though nobody can know whether it will survive forever. Tonight's question asked what would happen if humans had never left Africa. The answer is not a static continent filled with one people. It is 70,000 years of movement inside an enormous and varied human homeland. It is languages dividing and reconnecting. It is agriculture built from African crops. It is states, roads, medicine, industry, art, inequality, reform, and science developing without the civilizations that arose elsewhere in our history. It is a planet where most land never hears a Homo sapiens voice. Mammoths move beneath northern skies. Giant animals shape forests and grasslands in the Americas and Australia. Pacific birds nest on the ground without introduced rats. Ruins of other human lineages remain in caves no modern person enters until machines find them. Africa holds every living member of our species. That concentration creates extraordinary cultural contact and extraordinary vulnerability. Humanity becomes less globally diverse in environment and more deeply diverse within its continent. There are no modern continental ancestries outside Africa, no historical meeting with Neanderthals, no worldwide exchange of domesticated species, and no industrial system exactly like ours. There is also no reason to imagine intellectual limitation. The laws of physics do not change at the Red Sea. Mathematics can be discovered beside any river. Metal melts in African furnaces. Electricity moves through African wire. Vaccines can be developed in African laboratories. Telescopes can rise above African highlands. A rocket can leave an African launch field. Human potential was never imported into Africa from its descendants. It began there. The alternate world differs because potential meets different populations, materials, animals, climates, and networks. History is not a ranking of continents. It is an interaction between minds and circumstances. That may be the quietest lesson inside the entire scenario. Our real ancestors did not become more capable by leaving Africa. They carried capabilities formed through a long African evolution into new places. The new places then changed what those capabilities produced. Return now to Sierra's shore. The wind is rising. Two rafts move across water. One begins to turn. From high above, the people are too small to identify. Their decision is invisible among waves. In our actual history, many groups reached the other side at different times. Some vanished. Eventually, one expansion continued. Descendants moved through Asia, Europe, Sahul, and later the Americas. Their descendants became nearly every population living outside Africa today. In the alternate history, Sierra turns back. The shore receives the survivors. They carry less food than before, one unfamiliar stone, a repaired paddle, grief, and information. None of those things is failure. They learn the current. They learn the wind. They learn the far land could be reached, and that reaching was not the same as surviving. Sierra does not know that later people will turn the return into law. She does not know that a scientist named Amara will kneel beside a child's footprints or that Lela will stand beside a sealed vessel and choose not to leave. She knows only that someone is missing from the raft. That scale is enough. History is built from people acting before consequences become visible. A family follows animals into a new valley. A child learns a route. A storm separates boats. A seed is carried west. A law remains after its original danger fades. A researcher votes against a mission. A daughter carries her packed bag home. No moment contains the whole future. That can make the past feel gentler. The people who left Africa in our world did not carry responsibility for every empire, migration, extinction, language, discovery, or injustice that followed. They were solving immediate problems within lives as real and limited as ours. They needed food, safety, partners, water, and somewhere children could survive. The remarkable global journey was made without a global plan. The same is true of where you are now. The place around you belongs to layers of movement. Ancestors crossed regions, rivers, borders, or seas. Some moved by choice. Others were forced. Some returned. Some never could. The route may be documented or lost. Every living person remains connected to Africa through a chain much older than nation, language, or recorded family. That connection does not become weaker with distance. A branch remains part of the tree even after it grows far from the trunk. Before the story narrows towards sleep, one ordinary classroom shows what this continental humanity has learned to ask. In one of the alternate learning centers, a child named Miri turns a globe beneath her hands. The inhabited continent is covered with names: river federations, highland republics, coastal languages, desert corridors, forest nations, islands close enough to remain inside the shared political world. The rest of the globe carries ecological names rather than human borders: Northern Mammoth Range, Western Giant Grass Basin, Southern Ice Forest, Eastern Monsoon Wildlands. The names are imperfect. They were assigned by researchers looking from satellites and remote stations. Animals did not choose them. Rivers did not sign maps. Miri asks her tutor why nobody lives in so much of the world. The automated system offers several explanations and then calls a human historian because the question is not only factual. The historian is an older man who once served at the Port Museum with Mara. He sits beside Miri rather than across from her. People tried, he says. Why did they stop? Sometimes they died. Sometimes they returned. Later, we made rules. Were the rules right? Some were. Which ones? The ones that saved lives. Were those the same rules that kept people inside? Sometimes. Miri frowns at the answer. She places one finger on the Mediterranean and another on the Red Sea. Both distances look small on the globe. The continent holding every human city looks enormous until she rotates it. Then oceans and uninhabited lands occupy most of her view. Did people think Africa was the whole world? Some did. Others knew there was more. Were they lonely? The historian has never been asked that question. A species cannot feel loneliness as one body. Individuals can. Communities can. Cultures can imagine absence. Yet for most of alternate history, no person misses distant human societies because no such societies exist. The silence beyond Africa is not loneliness until people learn to hear it as silence. They had one another, he says. Miri accepts this for several seconds. Would people outside Africa have been different? Yes. Better. No, worse. No, then different how? The historian turns the globe again. They would have learned from places we never lived. This is another quiet consequence of confinement. Every human problem is discussed within traditions descended from one continental network. Those traditions are immensely varied, sometimes mutually incomprehensible, and shaped by thousands of independent communities. Still, no civilization develops for 10,000 years without awareness of the others, and then enters contact carrying an entirely separate agricultural, philosophical, or technological history. There is less global civilizational collision. There is also less radical cross-pollination between worlds that evolved apart. In our history, paper, printing, crops, numbers, navigation, metallurgy, medicines, and political ideas moved between regions, often after independent development. Encounters could be unequal and violent, yet they placed different solutions beside one another. Maize met African soils. Asian rice met West African knowledge and African rice traditions. Horses transformed societies far from their domestication. Potatoes supported populations across oceans. Diseases also moved, with catastrophic consequences. Miri's world has no Columbian exchange because there is no human America to meet a human Africa. There is only delayed contact between one human civilization and non-human ecosystems. The historian explains none of this in one speech. He tells Miri that different landscapes ask different questions. Ice asks how warmth can travel. Islands ask how direction can be remembered beyond sight of land. High plateaus ask how bodies live with thin air. Grasslands ask how people move with herds. Forests ask how paths remain visible when growth closes them. Africa asks all of these in some form, but not in every form Earth contains. Miri looks again at the outer continents. What question do they ask now? The historian thinks of the living shore accord, the small robotic bases, and every argument about expansion. How to arrive without pretending a rival creates ownership. Miri turns the globe until Africa faces upward. That is a difficult question. Yes. Will we answer it? Not once. The lesson ends there. Miri runs outside to join friends building a model boat. The globe remains turning slowly until friction stops it. No continent stays at the top. There is no need to turn that image into a demand for attention. The story has reached its final shore. The alternate cities can dim. Trains cross the Sahara beneath night. Seed archives cool underground. Water moves through irrigation channels. Across the water, the robotic Arabian station completes its measurements and seals an exterior sampling port. Across the rest of the planet, forests, ice, grasslands, deserts, and oceans continue without human settlement. Most of Earth is dark. Africa is not one point of light. It is a vast pattern following coasts, rivers, highlands, roads, and cities. No other inhabited continent answers across the sea. Satellites move above all of them, built by the only human civilization and launched from the only human homeland. From orbit, political boundaries are difficult to see. The Red Sea is narrow. It was always narrow enough to become a question. The question does not require another answer tonight. The real world already followed its path. Homo sapiens left Africa, mixed with other human lineages, adapted to new environments, and reached nearly every habitable region. That expansion cannot be reversed into a simpler moral. It created the diversity of lives now existing and erased possibilities we can only imagine. The alternate path can remain beside it. One world becomes global early and learns responsibility after spreading. The other remains continental for 70,000 years and keeps debating whether responsibility permits a first lasting departure at all. Neither world is free from loss. Only one is ours. Let Syrah's damaged raft rest above the tide line. The reeds no longer need repair. The missing swimmer does not need to be found by the mind. Omi can sit beside his sister while the wind moves south. Their group will walk inland when morning comes. Let Abony's lake hold the last light of evening. The water will shrink, and her road will carry seed, news, and people west. She does not need to know how large the network becomes. One marked stone is enough for the next journey. Let Amara stand near the protected footprints. The transparent cover reflects the sky. Lela stands beside her on the African shore. Across the modern water, the robotic research base sends a clear signal. No contamination alarm is sounding. Nothing requires a vote before morning. The stories can remain separated by thousands of years without being held together consciously. A shore, a road, a seed, a footprint, a door opening into another sealed door. They can become images rather than arguments. The body does not need a continent scale plan to rest. It needs only a place where weight can settle, where temperature remains safe enough, and where the next breath can arrive without instruction. Human beings carried that need across the planet. Before tents, ships, rail, satellites, and maps, people rested wherever movement paused. Beneath rock, beside water, in grass shelters, near fires, close to other bodies. Sleep traveled out of Africa long before anyone understood the distance. Tonight, it has reached this room. The room may be in Africa, Europe, Asia, the Americas, Oceania, or somewhere whose modern name contains histories too complex for one sentence. The body resting there belongs to the same species that once stood at narrow water and watched another shore. There is no need to feel brave. There is no crossing required. No unknown climate waits outside the blanket. No council expects a decision. No ancient migration depends on remaining awake. The large world can continue beyond the room. In the alternate history, the outer continents remain filled with non-human movement. A mammoth herd changes direction under snow. A giant bird steps through island forest. A horse lowers its head to grass without ever having carried a rider. Wind moves through a city that was never built. Inside Africa, night moves across the continent from east to west. Fishing boats return to shore. Highland fields cool. Desert rails continue under stars. Forest insects fill the darkness. Hospitals, observatories, farms, and water systems remain active while people sleep. Humanity is smaller there. The planet feels larger. In our world, human lights appear on every inhabited continent. Ships cross every ocean. Aircraft link distant cities. The planet feels connected and crowded. Yet most individual nights remain local. A person hears only nearby sounds. A window contains one piece of sky. The body knows the surface beneath it, not the whole migration that made the location possible. The globe stops. The final questions can now become quiet. Thoughts about genetic diversity, extinct hominins, agriculture, colonization, and species resilience can move farther away. They belong to daylight and long discussion. They do not need to be resolved into a verdict about whether leaving Africa was good or bad. It was human. So was staying. So was returning. Let the water between shores grow dark. The ancient rafts become difficult to see. One turns toward Africa. Another possible raft continues east in the history that became ours. The two paths separate without conflict. Both disappear into distance. Breathing continues near and regular. The heart performs work that has no map. Warmth remains inside the body, carried by chemistry older than any boundary. Muscles release what they no longer need to hold. The surface beneath you accepts more weight. No migration is happening now. No continent is being lost. The unknown can remain beyond the shore until morning. Let the final image be smaller than the planet. Sira sits with the repaired paddle across her knees. Omi sleeps nearby. The child who nearly froze is breathing under a hide. Waves repeat against stone. Somewhere across the water, another landscape waits without knowing it has been seen. Sira closes her eyes. The world remains large whether she crosses it or not. Sleep well.